I'm back. Don't know for how long because I didn't even know the stream went down. Right. Yes. That is 100% accurate. No. Yep. Good. Oh. Yeah, I'm getting more pissed because it keeps fucking up. Did you think about what they're gonna do if they cut, or what we're gonna do if they cut my power? Excuse me. No, it won't. Because that's the way it's supposed to be. Congress has that power, not the president. Excuse me. Hmm. Why is this even legal?
The fuck did you just get? You little shit? You want to get at my table, you little fucking shithead? Stay off my goddamn table, Dublin. I've got enough going on right now. I don't need you acting up.
So it goes all the way fucking way back. No, your screen was turned off for a fucking reason. And there's a canine that's about ready to fucking get his ass whooped. So that's where we're at. Yes, that was a pretty good sized crowd. For good reason, too. Okay. Marxist bureaucrats. I mean, yeah. What? For one, most of us on the left are not Marxist. As a matter of fact, a lot of people on the left are still quite alright with capitalism. I think y'all need to get your fucking shit straight. Marxism is not a form of government. It's a form of economy. Marxism is to capitalism as democracy is to Republican. Yeah, a lot of us on the left have a problem with the way our capitalistic system is right now because there is a lot of unchecked power. And we end up fucking dealing with it. But to say the left is Marxist because you rich motherfuckers are getting called out in the public square is fucking pathetic. And a beautiful understanding of how you don't know what that fucking word means. Wow, isn't that the pot calling the kettle black? Abusing their power. Projection, projection, projection. Sorry, those are not anti-American. As a matter of fact, those are a good part of what makes America. Without those things, it ain't America. I don't know what this shithole is, but it's not America. Ever since the fucking 21st of January this year. I would say day one, but it didn't have enough time to make it into the system yet and affect everybody. Real life. I'll go you one step further. Trump made it to where particular words are not to be used anymore. These are along the lines of anything gay or trans. If you're somebody with a problem with the quote unquote woke ideology, there's only one thing I've got to say to you. Grow the fuck up, you pathetic, disrespectful loser. If you've got a problem with political correctness, which is nothing more than showing some basic fucking respect for somebody, grow the fuck up, you pathetic loser. For fucking real. If you were that fucking small inside, that you're gonna hate over that, grow the fuck up, you pathetic loser. Damn right. Yep. Yep. Now, if you're wondering why that last name sounds familiar, it's probably because it is. McMahon? Yeah, you're thinking the same last name and same family as the owners of the WWE. Let that sink in. One of the owners of the WWE is heading the Department of Education. If you don't realize how fucking dumb that is, maybe somebody needs to get a fucking ugly stick and hit you with it. And no, I don't mean the figurative, I mean the fucking fishing pole, motherfucker. This is not something that should be even a fight. This is not something we should be going, this shouldn't be happening. No. This is something we should be talking about, trying to find ways to make it better. Instead, we're fighting to try to keep it around. You want to say everything's fine and dandy here? Motherfucker, stop smoking crack. Lay off the fucking smoke and come see what the rest of us are dealing with. Instead of being stuck in your little fucking bubble with your head up your ass. Dictatorial fashion. For those wondering, the reason why I'm in the dark like this and you can barely see me is because of the situation at hand. I sent Dad a text this morning going, okay, so now that we're a day late, what do I do if they come knocking? And Dad says, act like you're not home. It's like, fucking great. Seriously. And the amount that's needed to be able to pay the rent is fucking 500. In other words, the other 200 that I gave them, they spent. Even though it was supposed to be for fucking rent. Needless to say, I'm not a happy camper. Probably needless to say, I'm pretty fucking pissed off. There was still $200 out of what I gave them for rent, which was 2/3 of it. When originally they were paying for the rent because I was taking care of their dogs and we're supposed to be working as a team. Well, leaving a member of the team out of the loop does not is not teamwork. Using money that's supposed to be for something else is not teamwork. And it's not doing it right. Quite literally, had they not spent what was left, we'd be looking at 3 something needed. But no, it's fucking $500. Which I only found out today. So yeah, needless to say, I'm a little pissed off. I've kind of got a thing about making sure my bills are paid so I don't have to fucking worry about it. Because I hate this fucking shit. Never mind the fact that acting like I'm not fucking here means I can't go use the fucking bathroom. So I'm pissed. Mm. Oh, God. And the Catholics are one of the worst about it. For fucking real. Devout Catholics are fucking ridiculous. And hypocritical as all fucking get out. No. Catholic is not something that should be funded by our government. I shouldn't even have to say that. Yeah. I remember Netscape. That's why I don't like PayPal. Okay, so For the longest time, I've always had this nasty ass feeling about PayPal. I've never liked PayPal. Now I know why it came with a nasty feeling. It's made by fucking nasty people. Go figure. Yeah. I don't know, but I'm kind of curious about it. I'm sorry. That's still a lie. Even if he hasn't actually thought it through, that's still a lie. An unwitting lie is a lie still to say. And after he said something, he has the chance to make it true or not. He made himself that liar. Don't let him off for that. Fucking hold him accountable. Yeah. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, a liberal and a libertarian are not the same. Being upset about libertarians? Yeah, that I fucking understand. Guess what? Most liberals are. Liberal and libertarian are not the same thing. Technically, liberal is not even a proper political party assignment. It's progressive and conservative. Libertarian is not progressive. Not like that. Libertarian is everything you guys on the right hate. It is exactly what you have been thinking those coastal elites and Silicon Valley elites are. Us liberals are not them. Fucking for real. We are not them. And to think we are is fucking foolish. Just because you heard that they're libertarians and that we're liberals. And not thinking that there's a difference. At all. Or doing some research to see that there's a difference. At all. Congratulations! You fucked the people that help you and helped your enemy. Good job! Hooray! Bravo! Please no encore. Our country can't survive it.
what they believe, then you'll want to listen to this one because Owen Higgins has blown open the right wing propaganda conspiracy fueled by just a handful of tech oligarchs who used their immense wealth to buy not only influence, but influencers. They co opted dissident voices and turned them into propaganda mouthpieces. If it weren't so devastating for democracy, one might regard this as a brilliant piece of social engineering. But the damage done by just a few of the richest people in the world, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and others, has been immense. Brace yourselves. Here's part one of my conversation with Owen Higgins. Welcome to the Ken Harbaugh Show. My guest today is Owen Higgins, a journalist and author who has blown open the conspiracy, I think it's probably fair to call it that, of tech billionaires buying influence and influencers to shape so many of the narratives we take for granted today. His latest book is Owned: How Tech Billionaires on the Right Bought the Loudest Voices on the Left. Welcome to the show, Owen.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
I am fascinated by the motivations, not just the actions, the motivations of these billionaires and how much of what they do is driven by greed or vendetta, or sometimes, and I find this to be the most terrifying motivation, tech utopianism. But before we get into that, can you summarize what they have achieved by co-opting these incredibly influential voices on the left and building a new kind of information ecosystem?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great way to lead into it, I think. These billionaires, I focus mostly on Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, and to an extent, David Sachs. And for anybody in your audience doesn't know, obviously, I think they probably know who Elon Musk is, right? But Peter Thiel is a billionaire investor who was an early in the door for Facebook, and also helped found the company Palantir, which does a lot of like data processing and surveillance stuff for the national security state, and Mark Andreessen was one of the people who invented Netscape Navigator back in the 90s, and then he also became a VC. And he invested in Facebook and became fabulously wealthy through that. Oh, I should also say that Thiel and Musk both were kind of behind PayPal. So that's kind of how they became rich in the first place. And then Sachs. He was kind of one of these PayPal adjacent guys. So that's kind of who these guys are, right? Like as far as their money goes. And politically, they all are relatively right wing and have been for some time. I think Musk is maybe the exception to that because his politics were always like a little bit fungible, maybe like a little like flexible. But over the past decade, certainly these men have all become very public about their right wing politics. And with Trump coming, I think that Trump's first administration kind of gave them the opportunity to make a lot of money, although they made a lot of money under Obama, and they would make a lot of money under Biden as well. This is kind of a bipartisan problem, I think, of just kind of the rubber stamp contracts. But even though that exists, right? That's not enough for these guys. Like they want more than that. And one of the things that they really objected to was political media specifically, which they felt was not being fair to them, and they felt was kind of pushing a quote unquote like liberal agenda. And their response to this was to kind of create these alternative right-wing media ecosystems where they would kind of just plow money into it and give money to whoever, to whichever platform they wanted to, so that people would kind of start to leave institutional media and critical independent media and kind of come over to these platforms and not have the newsroom, not have editors, and all this stuff. None of this stuff by itself, at least as far as like the apolitical stuff that I'm talking about here, is really a problem. I use Substack, which is one of these services. I used Colin, the David Sachs run podcasting network. I don't think that these independent media platforms are a problem per se, but I think that when they start to kind of uniformly push a right-wing agenda, as we've seen, especially over the last like 5 years, pre-COVID and then certainly post-COVID, then you start to have a problem. And now, after Trump got, after that attempted assassination, just missed him, then they kind of use that as a moment to kind of publicly come out in support of Trump. And that is a bet that I think a lot of people probably thought was not a good one, right? Like that they were not being, that they were not making like a savvy choice. I certainly didn't think that Trump was going to get reelected, right? So I didn't really understand why it was the move to make for them, but it did pay off for them. And that's kind of the situation that we're in now. And that's why we have, Elon Musk in control or with oversight over all of these agencies. We have people like Peter Thiel and Mark Andreessen having a lot of influence over the administration. We have David Sachs in the White House as this crypto czar. These are already spectacularly wealthy, powerful individuals who now have access to these levers of power.
How do you think about the adjacent tech billionaires, Zuckerberg, Bezos, the others who don't have the track record that the subjects of your book do, but have lined up pretty speedily behind the Trump agenda? And it was especially alarming to me when Bezos canned the op-ed in the Washington Post right before the election and suggested that, maybe with all of the data at their disposal, these guys know something we don't.
That's a really interesting question, actually. Yeah. I think so. I'll get to that last point. Let me just kind of go over these guys. I think that's really interesting. I want to kind of think about it for a minute while I'm talking here. But Bezos and Zuckerberg are interesting test cases, right? Because these guys have given a lot of rhetorical support in the past to kind of like liberal causes. None of it has ever been particularly sincere, right? Like it's always been kind of like a reaction to what's going on. So in 2014, to go back that far, Mark Andreessen, who is on the board of Facebook, or at least was at the time, made some comments about India and colonialism that were, there's really no other way to put it, like pretty racist, right? And he was kind of excoriated online about this, and Zuckerberg took the unusual step of like kind of coming out and saying, that's not what we're about. This was kind of, a step in Andreessen's journey to the kind of more far right figure that he is now. Zuckerberg also, I believe in like 2020 during COVID, during Black Lives Matter protests, was kind of, more open to these kind of like liberal causes. And in both of these cases, I think it is an example of him taking these public positions because it's good for the company, and because I don't think that Zuckerberg really has a lot of really firm beliefs, right? I think that, like politically, right? I don't think that he really believes in much politically. I think that he kind of just believes in techno-utopianism, as you said before, techno-optimism, believes in the company, and that's basically it.
Hey, it's Ken. Quick break to let you know we've got a Substack page for the Ken Harbaugh Show. If you want to make sure you never miss an episode, check it out. A lot of you already have. Thank you so much. And if you're able to, please subscribe. Every dollar goes back into the show to help with research, production, and reporting from places like Ukraine.
Stop it. Get some help.
None of this happens without your support. Thank you. Welcome to the resistance.
I think that if Harris had won, I think Zuckerberg would be a total Harris Democrat.
Totally.
And there's no question about that, right?
Yeah.
And Trump has won, so now he's a Trump-loving tech bro. So I think he's just kind of flexible. I think he's morally flexible. I think that that's kind of what it is. Bezos is a more interesting case, I think, because this is a guy who made a really big deal out of buying the Washington Post and saying, I'm not going to be involved, right? I'm going to take a hands-off approach. And again, I don't know. This is just my speculation. But I think that for him, he probably thought, look, if my newspaper endorses Harris and Trump wins, there will be negative consequences for me because Trump is a very thin-skinned, vindictive, and vengeful person. If I endorse Trump, or if I don't have the paper endorse anybody, and Harris wins, there will be zero consequences for me because the Democrats they don't play that kind of game, right? So I think for him it was probably a pretty easy calculation to do it that way. Now I think there's kind of a separate question is like where are his politics really? I would argue that his politics are probably like maybe a little bit more heartfelt and conservative, and the reason I say that is because he gave this directive to the opinion page that they're going to, that he wants them just to talk about like liberty and like these are certain things that seem not to be negotiable, right? For the opinion page, like if you're going to write for my opinion page, you have to endorse free markets and I think it's liberty. So these are kind of vaguely defined things, but usually these are like kind of code words for kind of right wing politics. And as I pointed out in a separate interview, is that really the way that he feels? Like, is he really going to open the door to people writing about like Amazon's, monopoly on I don't think so. Like,
right.
But that would be an open market thing, right? Is he going to give people the liberty to write about like the positives of unionization? I don't think so. So it's that little dig at his hypocrisy aside, right? Like, but I think that the real thing here is that he's kind of like stepping down onto it and saying, no, we're going to do this. And that is a more, I think, from a kind of apolitical, just kind of like objective analysis, that's a kind of more interesting politics to me than Zuckerberg, who just doesn't, again, who I just don't think really believes in anything.
Yeah, well, I would interrogate that even further, this characterization of their politics as right wing, because in some areas it's absolutely not right wing on some social issues, but it is almost always in the direction of libertarianism and letting them make as much money as possible. Isn't that what it's really about at the end of the day? And they might fool themselves and think they're striving for a multiplanetary species or whatever Elon's latest thing is, but it's really about money.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that
this is not a natural storm that will pass.
Musk's politics, if we can talk about him for a second, maybe he talks about multiplanetary. He talks, he's been saying that we're going to get to the moon and to Mars, for years now, and it's never come through. It's kind of hard to even say that he lies because I don't even know if he even thinks about this stuff before he says it. I think he's just constantly like his own hype man, right? but yeah, ultimately it is like libertarianism, ultimate or a type of libertarianism. In the book, I quote this professor Olivier Joutel, who's from New Zealand, who originally from America, though, and I chat with him quite a bit. And he says, behind every libertarian in Silicon Valley, there's a big fat government contract. I mean, right? So, federal money has been supporting Silicon Valley for so long.
Palantir, SpaceX, Tesla with carbon credits, every single one of them.
Yeah. You name, go back decades. It's just, before, the Bush administration was a huge, like you're saying, Palantir, right? Like they were started with seed money from In-Q-Tel. This is all federal money that's going into this industry, into this sector. But even before that,
and In-Q-Tel is the CIA's incubator. Is that right?
Yeah. It's CIA's incubator, where basically it's their way of, and I don't want to suggest that this is some kind of a secret. This is public. What they do is they give seed money to these companies, and the expectation is that these companies will then produce a product that the CIA or some other aspect of the U.S. national security state can then use. Has been, I think, is started in the wake of 9/11. As many of these national security things were, and a lot of these funding that they've gotten from the federal government comes out of that moment. So, I think that for a lot of these guys, they find it difficult to kind of reconcile their idea of meritocracy with the kind of anti-libertarian, just getting federal money way that they've made their cash. And I think that where they kind of come down on it is well, we make the best product, so of course we're going to get that money. And ultimately, and I think this is kind of what you're getting at, right? Ultimately, does that ideology really matter that much? Do those personal politics matter that much? Because ultimately what these guys are interested in is making more money.
That was part 1 of my conversation with Owen Higgins. Part 2 comes out on Monday. Thanks for tuning in. And remember to check out the Ken Harbaugh Show Substack page. It's free to sign up. Thanks, everyone.
Captain, there are still 9 orders that need your approval.
All right. I'll get to it soon.
You said the same thing last week.
I gotta bite! Quick, reel it in!
Holy sh... This fish is gonna eat me!
Now will you listen to me?
Can you feel the burn, Donald, as you and Elon are posting weird memes celebrating your executive order directing the Department of Education to shut down, as you are picking on veterans and poor kids and people with disabilities? And by the way, your meme spells the word department wrong that Elon Musk is blasting out on his right-wing social media platform. You know what's taking hold across the country? The Fight the Oligarchy tour being led by Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders and AOC, well, they're filling up stadiums, Donald, bigger than the crowd sizes you were able to draw during your campaign. And we are not even in election season in March of 2025. This is what Tempe, Arizona looked like yesterday when AOC and Bernie Sanders were giving their Fight the Oligarchy tour speech. This is what it looked like when AOC called Bernie Sanders to the stage. Just watch this, Donald. Let me show you what a real crowd size looks like. Let's play it. Because you see, Donald, the people are pissed. And when you're posting memes like this with Elon Musk and you spell department wrong and you're bragging about how you're stealing lunches from kids, how you're picking on children with disabilities, how you are attacking poor kids, how you are attacking veterans, how Elon Musk is calling Social Security a Ponzi scheme, how you are saying that Medicaid is so riddled with fraud. By the way, Rick Scott of Florida, the senator of Florida, was involved in the biggest Medicaid fraud scam in history. That's how he made his money. And now you're trying to gut Medicaid. Let me show you what the world thinks about you, Donald. This is a bus stop outside of the American Embassy in London right here. They're literally shredding you, Donald. And now you're so unpopular across the world that if people are running for office, they have to show how much you hate them for them to try to win now. You're the most unpopular figure, I guess, everywhere other than, what, Russia and North Korea? Because Kim Jong-un and Putin are your daddy, Donald? Is that what's up? Is that what's up? Now we have headlines like this in the United States. CNN. So what is stagflation anyway? And why is it so scary? Business Insider. Stagflation can be worse than a recession. Investors are already bracing for it. Great, Donald. We're about 63 days in, and now you have investors bracing for stagflation, which means a crashing GDP, contraction GDP, and it means rising inflation. It's the worst of all worlds, stagflation. Great job, Donald. You turned a Goldilocks economy handed to you by former President Biden, something the Wall Street Journal called the envy of the world, and you threw it into the toilet the same way you bankrupted all your other businesses, Donald. So utterly, utterly pathetic. And by the way, Donald, remember you said that you and Putin had a great conversation this week. You had a great conversation. Remember you said that Putin agreed to have a ceasefire regarding energy infrastructure, and then Putin shortly thereafter started striking energy infrastructure in Ukraine. Well, this is what's been going down, Donald, in the past 24 hours. Russia, with the help of the Shahed drones given to it by Iran, just launched probably one of the biggest air attacks of the entire unlawful invasion of Ukraine in Odessa. This is Putin giving you and giving the rest of the world and NATO and Ukraine, of course, the middle finger, because he has zero respect for you, Donald. Literally zero. And you promised, you said on day one, you said there was going to be peace. You said you and Putin had such a strong relationship and that you would be able to get Zelensky to agree to a deal. You've made things worse like you always have your entire life, you fool. That's the only thing that you know how to do, is to make things absolutely worse. And just the visuals you created when you gutted the Department of Education, when you signed the executive order picking on kids, you Kim Jong-un wannabe. This is the image that Donald Trump projected. He created a fake classroom in the White House and used kids as props as he signed the executive order, stealing away the future of these kids. Shame on the parents who put these kids in there and made these children props. Shame on Donald Trump. Shame on everybody who's associated with this disgusting filth. Play this clip.
Should I do this?
And here was Donald Trump announcing that he was going to abolish the Department of Education, which, by the way, he doesn't have the statutory authority. It was created by a law, by Congress. So Congress would need to pass a law to abolish it. But with these spineless Republicans who just have been posting photos of themselves all day, either driving Teslas or saying that people need to buy Tesla stock, or posting photos with themselves reading Donald Trump's Art of the Deal, it's beyond stupid what's going on with these MAGA Republicans. Here's what Donald Trump said. Play it.
But I believe we'll get it done.
YouTube, Hinson Jackson.
Today we
Hey
take
bro,
a
what's
very
up?
historic action that was
YouTube, Hinson Jackson, I can hear you.
Oh, oops. Morning's been going very swimmingly. All sarcasm intended. Found out from Dad this morning how much is needed. And got pissed off about that. Because that means that 200 of the 600 I gave him that was supposed to go to rent didn't go to rent. And I'm supposed to act like I'm not here if they come knocking. And that's why it's dark in here. And the headset's on. Yeah. I got very pissed off when Dad said how much we needed. Because it was quite literally everything that hadn't been paid yet. Even though he was supposed to have 200 of it still. So in the meantime, I've got to lay low. Not exactly a happy camper about it. I just heard gravel. Fuck.
YouTube, Hinson Jackson, damn man, that's a rough start to the day, sorry to hear.
Yeah, so I'm a little pissed. As a side note, though, I did figure out.
YouTube, Hinson Jackson, I'm here for ya, bro.
I know. Side note, though, I did figure out why it is that the political right is so fucked up. They think liberal and libertarian are the same thing. Which kind of makes sense as to everything they've been saying. Because libertarians really are what they've been saying. Liberals, or politically left people, are not. Fucking hate this shit. Just act like you're not there.
YouTube, Hinson Jackson, did your dad say what he spent the 200 on?
Nope. Probably either food or accommodations, honestly. Maybe some cigarettes. Maybe. What it was spent on wouldn't have been anything funky. That's not my worry, it was just the fact that it was spent. And that is a big issue for me. Not having my bills paid drives me absolutely fucking nuts. I don't care what bill it is.
YouTube, Hinson Jackson, yay same here dude.
Fuck it. It doesn't let that much light in anyhow. Especially knowing it's housing rent. That's my number one every fucking time. And I make it clear to everyone around me that this is not something I fuck around with. I've been homeless too many fucking times in the past.
YouTube, Hinson Jackson, maybe if you go explain to the office they will cut you a break and allow you to add to next month.
It was already split into 2 payments this month. And I've really been hating the fact that Dad's been having me do the interactions after he set up the stuff, and it's like... I get major anxiety when I'm having to try to deal with a situation that I am not given all the information for. And it irritates me.
YouTube, Hinson Jackson, yay I don't blame you bro.
And this is part of the reason why I'm not allowed to work, too. These situations happen, and it's not uncommon. I don't do well in these situations. It's overwhelming.
45 years in the making. In a few moments, I will sign an executive order to begin eliminating the Federal Department of Education once and for all.
Yeah, that's what you stole off my table, you little monster. It's not a toy.
It sounds strange, doesn't it? Department of Education, we're going to eliminate it, and everybody knows it's right. And the Democrats.
Oof. I should have expected it, but I didn't expect to hear that kind of stupidity when I pressed play.
Democrats know it's right, and I hope they're going to be voting for it because ultimately it may come before them, but everybody knows it's right.
Here is Governor Walz of Minnesota being Governor Walz. This is the Governor Walz we should have seen during the campaign. This was the Governor Walz we saw at the beginning of the campaign before, I don't know, consultants told him to chill and to not be himself. I don't know.
Thank you for
This
following
was
Steve
Governor
_
Walz,
Johnny.
yesterday.
Thank you, Steve.
Hey, my
You know,
headphones
students like
aren't
my
working
son
right now.
who
Can you
depend
chat
on
instead?
IDEA
How
and
are you?
individual education plans to make sure that they're treated equally and get the best.
Can I chat instead? I mean, I can always chat, but if your headphones aren't working, chat's not necessarily going to be any better. Unless you're meaning typing in chat.
Possible education they can. That's a hallmark of America. I think America's great contribution to the world is our public education system, and of course Donald Trump doesn't care. And I appreciate you showing that photo because it's so obscene that he would put a mock classroom. We all know he's never been in one. He wouldn't last for a minute. He's never done it. He's surrounded by people who know nothing about education. And they want to make this about bureaucracy and cutting. This is about children. This is about broadband access in their schools. This is about the research
I'm
you were
overwhelmed
talking
by
about,
shit going on in my
pedagogy,
life,
things that we
ATM.
learn. And then it's about the Civil Rights Department at the Department of Education that makes sure that we don't have a situation where a Ruby Bridges is escorted to school with police. And so we're back in an area where we can segregate. And he knows that curriculums and those decisions are made on a local basis, but they muddy the water. So look, just like your previous guest, thanks for having her on, but it's chilling.
Oregon, USA.
They don't care about law. They don't care about where the American public's at. And that kind of
Sadly.
segues to why I'm getting out there. And there's a reason that these Republican Congress members aren't holding town halls, because this is so unpopular they can't defend it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to make sure that the voices of their constituents are heard.
And yeah, here are the MAGAs.
Nice to meet
MAGA
you,
Senator
less than
John
3.
Cornyn, MAGA Congresswoman
Do you
Virginia
stream
Fox
daily?
just bragging about their Teslas. By the way, yesterday nearly all of the cyber trucks from Tesla have been recalled because Tesla used the wrong glue.
Yes,
Tesla
and
says
Miley.
it will fix the sticky issue, which could cause panels to detach from the trucks while driving, with a new adhesive not prone to environmental embrittlement. Oh, great. It's great to know that this is the individual who is now gutting the FAA and the NIH and the CD.
That's great to know. This is the individual making rockets for our astronauts to go into space.
At Olmega Guy, what's your fave game?
That in and of itself should scare a lot of people. And should show that this guy is not a fucking genius.
Because when it comes to your ugly, stupid Cybertruck, either your fascist mobile or whatever they're calling it now, and this happens, I guess if someone wants to buy this ugly piece of trash, it's on them. But now when we go into airplanes and when we have to travel, by the way, no wonder there's a travel advisory now from the UK, from Germany, from Europe, Charlie Angus, a member of parliament from Canada, gave a speech yesterday saying that Canadians should not go to the United States. He says, if you go to the United States, you can end up in an ICE detention center or even sent to concentration camps in El Salvador, as America no longer provides due process to people. How horrific that's how, but unfortunately accurate.
I don't have a
this is
fave
what
game,
Donald
just
Trump has
groups of
turned
games.
America into. More on that in a moment. What's Donald Trump's Treasury Secretary saying while all of this is going on? Well, Scott Bessent, who lives in a $22 million pink mansion, a real-life version of Barbie's dollhouse, here's how he views everything. Play the clip.
It's this consultant group who has they're like a boa constrictor, they're like a python. They've got themselves
no pun intended.
Yeah.
Python language. Yeah. All you coders have been.
It wasn't.
If only I have you try Valorant.
Okay. Thanks.
But they've
What's he even talking about? Pythons and constriction. I have what the hell is this guy even talking about here? Lara Trump then goes on Fox and says, all these crazy lefties, they keep saying that my dad-in-law
yes, Mayor,
is
is
like
my
best
opinion.
friends with Putin. He's not best friends with Putin. Here, play this clip.
It's pretty amazing to see them getting it given back to them. But this is what happens, Laura, whenever you empower these far-left radicals in your party. And that's what's happened over the past several years with the Democrats. They've catered to these people. They've allowed these people, and not just allowed them, but encouraged them to believe all these crazy lies, like Donald Trump's going to put gay and interracial couples in internment camps if he becomes president, like that he's best friends with Vladimir Putin.
By the way, even Fox had to admit how unpopular Donald Trump gutting the Department of Education is and how unpopular Donald Trump's other policies are. Here, watch this.
Most voters oppose President Trump's efforts to reduce the number of government employees, changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America,
I just
and
took a
ranking
break
near
from
the
work
bottom
and your
in
stream is
support.
coming in my
His campaign
suggestions, so
promised
I
to
decided
close
to
the
join you and
Department
have
of
some fun red
Education.
heart.
Are you looking for more in this world? Are you ready to be part of something bigger?
Well, today.
Here's another clip from Fox showing those polls. Let's play it.
Education more expensive. New Fox polls show 92% of Democrats oppose shuttering the department, plus 81% of independents, and more than a third of Republicans.
We have started doing this.
Now, one of the things that we've reported on as well is that at least one of the individuals, and I'm sure this is the case with others as well, a Venezuelan migrant who sought asylum in the United States and was here legally, signed up to be here for asylum. He was a professional soccer player in Venezuela who criticized the Maduro regime. So he was a political exile of a brutal dictator in Venezuela. He was in our database because he self-registered himself as part of the asylum process. So he's here lawfully. He had a tattoo for Real Madrid, and there was a photo of him giving an I love you sign with his hands. On that basis, the Trump regime said this individual was part of the Tren de Aragua Venezuelan gang and then put him in a concentration camp in El Salvador. This individual's lawyer said this is not a gang member. He's a soccer coach.
This is my normal news reporting time, but I do many games on request and have a list I keep on my PC for daily play.
In El Salvador, and the Trump regime refuses to provide answers to the Judge Jeb Boasberg, who is the former chief judge of the FISA courts in Washington, D.C. He's now the chief judge in Washington, D.C. He has just issued, or yesterday issued, an order to show cause why the Trump regime should not be held in contempt for its invocation of the Alien Enemies Act and its violation of the court order where the court said, pause it. We need to understand what you're invoking. Give us 14 days before you ship people wherever you're going to ship people. It turns out to concentration camps in El Salvador. And now all the MAGAs are attacking Jeb Boasberg.
It's also a way to keep me grounded in reality.
Saying, oh, he's just an entry-level judge. Here's a judge who doesn't know what he's doing. No, he's the chief judge in Washington, D.C. And then we have due process in this country. You don't just take people and because you think that their tattoos may or may not be that, you don't just ship them to concentration camps. That's ridiculous. I'm a law and order person who believes that anyone who commits crimes should face the full extent of the law, of our laws in the United States. but they should be given process. They should be presented evidence. There should be evidence presented before people are shipped off. And by the way, I don't think they should go to concentration camps at all in general. And why are you sending Venezuelans to El Salvador concentration camps? But you give people process. What you're saying that is this was an enemy combatant, a hybrid warfare gangster. What are you even talking about? And then you go, oh, what you don't want us to get rid of the terrorists? Of course we want to get rid of the terrorists, but follow due process and make sure these people are that before you start killing people, killing their families. What are you doing? Pisses me off. I think people are getting it. I think we can head towards 5 million subscribers here on this YouTube channel. We just hit 6 billion views on YouTube. Let's keep on growing, folks. Let's
Therapy,
keep getting the
entertainment,
word out.
interaction, and socializing.
Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers.
Can't get enough Midas? Check out the Midas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports,
All in one
podcasts,
place.
daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now.
All right, next video. Yeah.
In breaking news, historic news, unprecedented news, Chief Justice John Roberts, not waiting around for a court hearing or a case to write it in, has opened a dialogue and rebuked Donald Trump in public, telling him to back off calls to impeach federal judges, that's not the way. The way is through appeal.
Good.
What got his ire up? What got Chief Justice Roberts' ire up this morning? Donald Trump posting on social media a blatant, violent attack on the chief judge of the D.C. District Court, Chief Judge Boasberg, because he doesn't like the fact that Boasberg is blocking Donald Trump's phony use of war powers to deport people under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. And Chief Justice Roberts of the Supreme Court has had enough. For the full-length version of that hot take, click the link below. In breaking news, historic news,
Is this the best survival game ever made?
This is the aircraft carrier shelter you seized, previously owned by...
A new filing in court by the Trump administration has been declared woefully deficient by a federal judge, not just any federal judge, Chief Judge Jeb Boasberg of the D.C. District Court, in the case about the Venezuelan deportation and the unconstitutional exercise of war powers by Donald Trump. And now the judge is showing the mettle that he's made of. He's not intimidated by Donald Trump or his minions, calling for his head, calling him corrupt, calling him a lunatic, or any of that. He's in the right. He's got friends in high places, including his former roommate in law school, Brett Kavanaugh of the United States Supreme Court, and his other friend and defender, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Roberts, who recently came to his defense. And now he's looked the administration in the eye and he's not blinking. Instead, he's told the administration in no uncertain terms that by the 25th of March, they are to explain to him how the planes that got sent to Venezuela after he had already issued his injunction orally in court, how they need to explain by an order to show cause how that did not violate his orders. It's the beginning steps of a contempt proceeding against the Trump administration, and I can't think of a better judge to lead it than Jeb Boasberg. You're on the Midas Touch Network and Legal AF, and I'm Michael Popok. Let's get into it. The woefully deficient submission is that late after the judge's deadline, a deadline that had already been extended once at the last minute, the Trump administration claimed they could not provide Jeb Boasberg with any further information about the flights, the last-minute surreptitious middle-of-the-night flights from America to the one of the worst prisons in the world in El Salvador, containing plane loads of Venezuelans subject to the court's injunction. They couldn't explain it better to the judge because they were trying to invoke what is now referred to as the state secrets privilege. A state secrets privilege coming out of a 1953 United States Supreme Court case, U.S. versus Reynolds, in which the court This is judge-made privilege. This isn't on the books anywhere, where if the information that is necessary in the case, in this case to respond to the judge, I presume, is somehow jeopardizes national security, judges will defer to the commander-in-chief or to the executive branch and not require it to be disclosed. And that's state secret privilege. It's not generally used in this context. It's used when there's a plaintiff who's suing about something who needs the state secrets or what's been claimed to be state secrets in order to prosecute their case, as opposed to a federal judge who needs information to determine whether his orders have been flouted and have been violated. In fact, Jeb Boasberg told the lawyers, I don't see how the state secrets privilege applies at all. And they asked for another 24 hours. He said, I'll give you another 24 hours. And then they were late. And then they filed a last-minute declaration, a sworn statement under oath, we also call it an affidavit, from a regional ICE officer for the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, who said he's aware of deliberations of other people in the cabinet about whether to assert the state secret privilege, and therefore they need more time. And then he just repeated what they had earlier filed, which was insufficient, which is about flights that took off after 7:25. The judge said, I don't care about the flights that took off after 7:25 or before 7:25.
YouTube,
I care about the flights that took off
here,
after I ordered them to be turned back around at 6:35. And so the judge took a look at this submission late by the wrong person without real knowledge on what we call hearsay, right? Somebody told him about somebody else's deliberations at the cabinet level position. The judge said this is woefully deficient. It's the wrong affiant, the wrong declarant, the wrong person with knowledge, because this person doesn't have precipient knowledge. And the judge ordered them by tomorrow to give him a declaration from somebody in the cabinet themselves, a cabinet officer. I presume that means Pam Bondi of the Department of Justice, who, by the way, has been on a crusade to attack Jeb Boasberg by name and by position, along with the press secretary, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and everybody else. It got so bad and took on such a fevered pitch that the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, a friend of Boasberg, stepped in and issued a rare and historic statement about 200 years of precedent means you don't move to impeach a judge that you don't like his opinions or his orders. You appeal. Roberts had to step in to protect somebody that works for him, and he knows well, and he respects in Jeb Boasberg. Somebody who was originally appointed to that position by a Republican, not by a Democrat. He was elevated by a Democratic president, but he was originally appointed to the federal bench by a Republican. He is known as a moderate, middle-of-the-road Democrat, not an extreme left-wing nut, as they're portraying him to be, and certainly not corrupt. Can you imagine what would happen to me representing a client or the client of mine calling a federal judge corrupt without any evidence in a defamatory way? First of all, for a lawyer, and that's Pam Bondi, it would be unethical and in violation of her rules of professional responsibility. And they should look into that with a bar complaint. Others that have been put up to that task, like the press secretary, question is who put her up to it? And that's for another day. But Jeb Boasberg took a look at that deficient, woefully deficient filing. And now we've got the next steps towards a contempt proceeding. This is progressive discipline by a judge. Let me get to the bottom of the facts. You answer my questions. If I need to do follow-up, I may do follow-up questions. Order to show cause as to you need to produce this by a date certain on my desk. And if I don't like the answers, I'm going to move to civil contempt. And if I don't really like the answers, I may move to criminal contempt and start putting people in jail. Now, let me read to you from the actual order. It's a relatively short order, but I think an important one. And here's what the order had to say. As most of you know, my wife and I just welcomed our baby daughter into this world less than a year ago, and that made me rethink many aspects of my life and career, with a special emphasis on planning for their future, just in case. And that includes making sure our daughter is well taken care of should something happen. Protect your family by securing their future with life insurance from Policy Genius. Policy Genius makes finding and buying life insurance simple and ensures your loved ones have a financial safety net they can use to cover debts and routine expenses, or even invest that money to earn interest over time. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. And some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. Did you know 40% of people wish they got life insurance at a younger age? Having life insurance in place gives me tremendous peace of mind, as I see this kind of planning as a natural extension of my love for my family. With Policy Genius, you can compare quotes from America's top insurers side by side for free with no hidden fees. Their licensed support team helps you get what you need fast, so you can get on with your life. They answer questions, handle paperwork, and advocate for you throughout the process. So join thousands of happy Policy Genius customers who left 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot. Secure your families tomorrow so you have peace of mind today. Head to policygenius.com/legalaf or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/legalaf. This is the judge on page 1, kind of giving the outline. On March 18th, this is how fast this story is moving, the court ordered the defendants, that's the Trump administration, to provide by noon the following day, that's yesterday, specific information regarding flights carrying individuals subject to the court's temporary restraining order issued 3 days before. Defendants instead filed a pleading shortly before the deadline, seeking to stay the order in large part on the grounds that they were considering to invoke the state secrets privilege. Although skeptical of the applicability of such privilege, the court granted defendants another 24 hours, that's today, either to release the information ordered or to invoke the privilege. In an ex parte pleading delivered shortly after today's deadline, ex parte means they didn't have permission to file this pleading. They filed it kind of out of order. The government again evaded its obligations. That's the second time the judge has found that the Trump administration has evaded its obligation. It submitted a 6-paragraph declaration from the acting field office director for enforcement and removal operations at ICE in Harlingen, Texas field office. I mean, that's pretty not a cabinet member. The contents of which the government has informed the court may be disclosed. After 4 paragraphs of identifying information, he repeated the same general information about the flights that the Trump administration had already submitted. The judge had found woefully deficient the first time. Quote, on March 15, 2025, 2 flights carrying aliens being removed under the Alien Enemies Act departed U.S. airspace before the court's minute order of 7:25 p.m.
Share your Discord, then I'll show you my work there.
Of Trump's own making and imagination. That a judge's order orally, which was about an hour and a half earlier, is not binding until it's reduced to writing. And that's a bold-faced lie. He then, and the judge has told him that. He then stated, and this is the part the judge finds woefully deficient, I understand, meaning based on hearsay told to me that I don't have knowledge of, I'll translate that for you, Cabinet secretaries, unnamed, are currently actively considering whether to invoke the state secrets privilege over the other facts requested by the court's order. Doing so is a serious matter that requires careful consideration, can't be undertaken in 24 hours. This, the judge ruled, is woefully insufficient. To begin with, the government cannot proffer a regional ICE official to attest to cabinet-level discussions of the state secret privilege. Indeed, his declaration on that point is based solely on his unsubstantiated understanding. Although its skepticism concerning the suitability of such privilege expressed in yesterday's order remains, the court at a minimum requires an official with direct involvement to swear that deliberations of the privilege's invocation are ongoing as that ICE official attested. It further expects, this is the court speaking now, that the
Hey, Jackson. No offense. Meditation is not going to change the situation I'm currently sitting in. It's not going to change the fact that I have to deal with what I do at the moment. Meditation is a useful tool if all you need to do is center your mind. I don't need to center my mind. Sadly, points like this is points that I do some of my best thinking. Because the lovely thing about being ADHD and autistic, as well as PTSD, all rolled into one, when shit hits the fan, I tend to be able to figure shit out really fucking quick. And I don't mean that as an insult or a grumpy towards you, it's just being real. It's actually a survival mechanism.
Deliberations are over and concluded by the 25th of March. In addition, the judge ruled, in order to avoid further delay, the court will require defendants to show cause on the facts that they've already disclosed as to why the failure to return the class members aboard the two earliest planes did not violate the court's restraining orders, plural.
Okay.
Further, supplementation may be required once particulars are
I just wanted to
disclosed.
make sure it
And he
didn't
set
come
the
across too
following
good,
deadline.
'cause
Tomorrow,
I know I'm grumpy.
the 21st,
I know I'm
by
not
10
gonna do
a.m., defendant shall submit a sworn declaration by
And
a person
you
with
didn't do
direct
nothing. You don't
knowledge
deserve to
in the
take
cabinet
flack
level
for it.
discussions. He better get one with by Pam Bondi or somebody close to it, is what he's trying to say there, about the possible
even
invocation
close.
of the state secrets privilege. 4 days later, on the 25th of March, he's expecting and has ordered another affidavit or declaration indicating whether or not the government is invoking that privilege. Then on that same day, he wants a brief
And
from
if
the
I
Trump
did, I'm
administration
sorry.
answering why,
I wasn't trying
showing
to.
cause why they did not violate the court's temporary restraining order by failing to return class members removed from the U.S. on the two earliest planes. In other words, why aren't you in contempt?
Yesterday's magic is tomorrow's reality.
Now,
Yesterday's magic is today's science. Straight up. That's part of the reason why science and I being a tag team is kind of amusing. And by that I'm referring to my moderator science. And someone might take that the wrong way, but no. Magic, my place, is an older version of, well, not version, but older form. Not the exact same thing, but close, of science, where science is better understood, versus magic was not. It was found what it was, and it became called science. And I find that comparison with the two of us amusing and kind of nice. Unintended symbolism again. Kind of like my username.
separate and apart from that order, because there's a number of things going on parallel. The judge has already set a prior briefing schedule about the merits of his temporary restraining order that the Trump administration has moved to vacate or dissolve, about whether the Trump administration or Trump had the war powers and the ability to exercise the Alien Enemies Act to turbocharge his deportation and send these men and boys shackled to El Salvador. Or was that unconstitutional? That briefing concluded, and there will be a hearing tomorrow on Friday on that very matter. These things are all moving separately. As of right now, the appellate court, the D.C. Court of Appeals, 3-judge panel, has not
Honestly.
saw fit to stay or block any.
Not having the awning out on my trailer probably saves me a little bit. Because with how bad it's pouring out there, no one's going to want to stand out in the rain and knock on my door. Especially considering I haven't gone out today. So there's a little bit of a thought that I could either still be sleeping or not here. Provide a little bit of reasonable doubt. Of course, Trailer Park has a lot of open lots at the moment. They may be thinking, if we let them go, we might still be able to get our money. Which would be cool if that actually happened, but I don't know if I see that being the case. It is a business.
Any of these proceedings, which is a win for Jeb Boasberg. And then, of course, we've got what's going on outside the courtroom and the courthouse, which is Boasberg being bashed and doxxed by the press secretary, called out by name as being dishonest and being a leftist and being somebody who's breached his oath of office as a judge. Same thing, Elon Musk wants him impeached and Donald Trump wants him impeached. And even
Find
after
me in other places,
John
Discord,
Roberts
Twitter,
told Donald
YouTube,
Trump
Steam,
to knock it
Xbox,
off,
and
stop
PlayStation
talking
Old
about
Mage Guy
impeachment
on TikTok
when
is
you don't
Mage.
like the rulings of a judge. Donald Trump doubled down and sent like a mafioso-style message, almost like a fish wrapped in newspaper, back to John Roberts, and by going on Fox News and saying, well, is he even talking to me? And he's corrupt. Back on the judge. He's dishonest. He's rogue. He's terrible. Just doubling down, telling John Roberts, you're not going to control me, and firing back at him. And then Pam Bondi does the same thing from the Department of Justice. All this pressure campaign. And of course, the threats on the life of Jeb Boasberg and his family have escalated considerably in the last 48 to 72 hours. But he is a federal judge that swore an oath to uphold the Constitution and to do his job and to do it impartially without showing fear or favor. And he's doing that. And that's what we expect and we require of our federal judges, no matter who appointed them. In Jeb Boasberg's case, a Republican. I'm Michael Popak. You're on the Midas Touch Network and Legal AF. Keep following everything at the developments at the intersection of law and politics right here. Slide on over to the YouTube channel for Legal AF that I curate at Legal AF MTN for the Midas Touch Network. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popak. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the...
And I think that was our last one for today so far. Yep, that's it. Well, I need to do something. I can't just sit here. Just irritates me so much they spent that other 200. It's like, you've seen how almost OCD I am about making sure my bills are paid, and you went and did that with. It's like having a bad roommate that doesn't pay their rent. Or their half of it. And worst comes to worst, that roommate's a little fucking piss pot that I have to take care of. Who's entitled and thinks that everything has to involve him. Alright. I'm gonna change the stream over. I'll be back. See you guys in a few. Oh. Might be a little bit longer. I'm not entirely sure. I will be back for too long.